Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to be imparting some knowledge and wisdom on theater and empathy and talking to you guys about how we can use traditional practices from theater to implement empathy into our workplace and our classroom. But before we begin, I want us to get into the groove of things by getting to know each other. So I'd like you guys to take a minute to tell us your name, what you do, your job, you go to school, and if you could just describe your perfect day, whatever that may entail. Food, activities, winning the lottery, whatever that is, please feel free to share. Whoever would like to go first, please feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead.
All right, I'll go first. My name's Javier Leal. I work for a community college in San Antonio. I currently go to an online school for an MBA degree, which I will be completing next semester.
Oh, congratulations.
A perfect day would be probably just surrounded by a lot of family, good food, and yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. And that sounds like a really wonderful day. Donna, Rebecca, which one of you guys would like to go next?
I'll go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Dawn Thompson. I also work at a community college in San Antonio, Texas. My perfect day probably would just be in bed with the sliding door open while the leaves fall in like November or December and watching The Office curled up in a blanket.
I love that. What's your favorite episode of The Office?
Hardcore Parkour.
That's a good episode.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. And Rebecca, please tell us your name, your work, what you do for fun, and your perfect day. Sorry, not what you do for fun. Your perfect day.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Flippo. I work for a staffing agency in San Marcos. And I don't know, it's kind of tough. I think my perfect day, I would want to be kind of outside enjoying the weather, whether that's, having a meal outside, just kind of exploring anything when it's nice and it's fall. Anything to do outside is a perfect day for me.
All right. What's your favorite weather like? Perfect temperature.
I like it to little be a breezy, but the sun's still out. Like you still need a jacket, but you're not hot or cold. I know, perfect temperature.
Perfect temperature.
That just, I feel like it's a nice fall day.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing, and I appreciate it. In fact, because you guys shared, I feel like it's my duty to share as well. My name is Brianna Carrasco. I'm an adjunct professor at a community college in San Antonio, and I currently am taking online classes to get my MA in theater, and my perfect day would involve food, lots of chocolate cake, and playing some Christmas movies, even if it's July and in the summer. All right, so as we get into this, we're going to do another activity, but this one's going to involve us getting to move around a bit. But first, I'd like to take you down the objectives about the outcomes of what you should expect to learn and get from today's presentation. So the first is that I'm hoping you guys can be able to define empathy in your own words. One of the biggest things about empathy is that it gets confused with sympathy. So I want to make sure that we can understand the difference between the two. We also are going to identify ways that empathy has occurred in your life right now, whether it be in the workplace or in the classroom. And then lastly, we're going to analyze new ways that we can implement empathy strategies that come from the theater world, the theater practices and traditions, whether it be in the workplace or in the classroom. So our activity is going to consist of you guys needing to get a scarf, a jacket, a hat, and sunglasses. So please feel free to take 30 seconds or a minute to scavenger hunt your house and find a scarf, a jacket, a hat, and sunglasses. All right, we look like we have Javier. He's good to go. Rebecca looks like she's good to go. She's got her jacket for her fall weather, sitting outside having her meal. And if you will, please begin with your jacket on and have your cameras on for me whenever you're ready. And then we'll start to, I'll explain what the activity is and how we can get into it. All right, Dawn looks like she's ready. All right, Javier is ready. We're all good. Perfect. Thanks, guys, for letting me know you're ready. So we're all going to start with our jackets on, which you guys already did. And this activity is called Anyone Who. So we're going to start to learn some things about each other and see what some of the stuff we have in common. The idea is that after I say the sentence, anyone who has had water today, if you have had water, then you are to take your jacket off and add another accessory. Doesn't matter if it's the scarf, the hat, or the sunglasses. But the last person to add the new item has to be the next person that starts the sentence of anyone who. All right, does that make sense for everybody? Are we good? All right, fantastic. All right, so I'm going to start off. Anyone who has journaled today? Nobody. Okay, we'll do another one. Anyone who has taken a 5-minute walk outside today? Okay. Fantastic. Actually, you know what? Since we didn't get everyone involved, Javier, why don't you take this next one?
Anyone who has eaten today?
Oh.
Oh, these are terrible.
Becca, you're the last one. So you're going to start us
Okay.
off.
Anyone who enjoys pizza.
Do it again, Becca. Rebecca, for us, please.
Okay. Ooh. Anyone who enjoys sleeping.
Ooh, that one was kind of tough. I'm going to say Dawn. That scarf took a second for you to get on.
She's real big. She's a big scarf. Anyone who I don't know. Anyone who got on social media today?
Ooh, that's a good one. Ooh, Rebecca, I think that was you. You'll have to give us another one.
Okay. Anyone who this is a tough one.
You could even do anyone who likes.
Anyone who likes music.
Ooh, okay. Javier, I'm going to let you do one more, and then that'll be our last one, just to kind of give you a chance to come up with something else on the spot.
Anyone who has more than 10 pair of shoes?
Woo! Rebecca finally got fast. She finally got there.
I did. I was holding it quick.
Got it on there. All right. Thanks, guys, for doing that with me. You can go back to your regular clothing. I really enjoy doing that because it gives us a chance to break out of the norm, and to a certain extent, we can get silly with the hats and the jackets and to get an opportunity to just get to know each other on a completely different level. So what this presentation is about understanding how theater can become an element that we use every single day to show empathy. And I want to share with you guys why important it is to use theater to show empathy. And the main reason is because we, as an audience member, get to gain experience and learn by hearing and telling stories. This gives us a chance to identify with the characters on stage. And if we ever get the opportunity to perform, then we also get to put ourselves in another pair of shoes, right? So what I would like us to do is to take a couple of seconds and just think as a group, what does empathy mean? And what we can do right now is just sort of brainstorm and spitball with each other. What does empathy mean to you? And let's just kind of go from there. So anybody can start. Give yourself a couple of minutes to think if you feel. John?
To me, empathy is being able to have that deeper understanding of, I guess, like someone's feelings or a situation that they're going through. The difference between I understand and, I'm so sorry. What can I do for you, instead of like, okay, like, I'm sorry for your loss. And then, that would be like a sympathy example, where empathy would be like, I'm there with you. Like, let me give you a hug. Let me console you. I'm feeling sad with you. That's what empathy means to me, is like that more emotional, like, connection.
Right. Okay. Beautifully said. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I think kind of with that, it made me think of empathy as I know when someone's talking about something, and just letting them know that you understand, even if you don't know what they're going through or have been through it, but just saying that you're there and you do and I don't know how to say it, but just, being there and showing your support in a way, and just, saying like, if you need anything, let me know. But not trying to understand, but just acknowledge and just let them know that you're there for them.
Okay. So as you guys can see, I have a sticky note pulled up. Please let me know if you can't see it. I have a sticky note pulled up because I want to take note of what you guys are telling me, so that as we go through and create this definition as a group, we have an understanding where it's coming from, right? Can you guys see the sticky note?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So Dawn mentioned, understanding the emotion, being able to be there and fully recognize that this emotion is happening, and that you're understanding of that emotion as well. Rebecca, you're telling me that empathy for you means being there and showing the support and acknowledging the emotional, physical, and mental well-being of a person. Javier, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, I think empathy is having experienced something similar, or yeah, I guess that would be the best way of describing it.
Okay, great. And I think you guys are right on the money by explaining that, empathy is about understanding, showing support, and acknowledging the well-being of a person, as well as having a specific or type of understanding of the experience that someone is going through. So I think this is a wonderful definition that we have come up with. And like I said, I think it's right on the money. So I'm going to keep this up here, sort of like the safekeeping, right? Our little, what we've done in class today, here it is. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is, I mentioned earlier that sometimes we get empathy and sympathy mixed up, and I want to make sure that we have a clear-cut definition of what empathy means and what sympathy is. So empathy, as you guys are mentioning to me, it's this idea of experiencing the feelings of another. And again, you may have the similar personal experiences that someone else may be going through, and being able to acknowledge and understand the acknowledge the emotion that they have going on. So that's empathy. Whereas sympathy, on the other hand, is more about understanding the suffering. You acknowledge their circumstances, you recognize it, but with empathy, you fully have an experience of really gaining the perspective of their emotional and their emotional experience. So experiencing is empathy, understanding is sympathy. But as it is, there are two different types of empathy. One is affective and one is cognitive. So affective is more about the ability to respond appropriately to someone else's emotional or mental state. You know, there are certain things that people want to hear when they are going through a crisis or going through an emotional undertaking, and they feel that certain words are going to make them feel better. And having that affective empathy, we know that there are certain things that we can say and do that's going to help them and better them. Cognitive empathy is just being able to recognize and understand what other people might be thinking and feeling without having judgment, without bias. It's all about being there for someone and just acknowledging what they're feeling. So the affective is more of responding, cognitive is more of the recognizing. So the next thing I would like to do is I'd like to talk about how we can incorporate empathy. As you guys mentioned, you all are either in the workplace or in the classroom. And so I want to kind of gain from what you've experienced in your work life and classroom life, some things that you believe encompassed empathy. So I'd like to take about 3 minutes, have you guys jot down two topics or two things that you've recognized from the workplace that implemented empathy. So that ability to understand people's emotion, especially now in this moment, as we go through uncertain and unprecedented times, we definitely need that empathy. So I'm going to give us just 3 minutes to kind of think it over, write it down for me, and then we're going to share it and talk about it.
Brianda, can they be topics that pertain to what's currently going on, like right now with like the pandemic?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for asking. Yes. Here's some music for you guys to keep you thinking and focused and going. When you guys finish, just give me a thumbs up, whether with the icons or with your actual thumb. Thank you, Javier. looks like you guys are ready. So thank you guys. So I want to bring up my sticky note. Here we go. I lost it for a second, but here we go. And give you guys an opportunity to share with me some of the things that you've written down. Whoever would like to go first, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Sure. Unless Donna wants to go first.
Okay, I'll go first.
Thank you, Javier.
So the first thing that came to mind when it comes to empathy in the workplace is more related to our current culture, which is the pandemic, right? COVID-19, and how it might be beneficial for supervisors or coworkers or teachers to think about how to navigate these new certain circumstances, right? So, like for example, this student's not showing up, or this deadline passed. Like, where is it? Maybe instead of attacking, your employee or your coworker or something like that, like, hey, you missed this meeting, or hey, maybe we can ask them first, right? Like, someone comes to you and says, my mother passed away from COVID, have some, empathy to them. And, you can't truly understand, right? Because, you didn't lose a mother in that way, but try and get more on their level instead of, I'm sorry, but can you still do that? Like, okay, figure it out. The other thing was I had wrote down that personal or mental, emotional, and physical safety come first, right? So I guess it kind of goes hand in hand with the current situation. Just making sure, like, we tend to forget in our climate of like go, 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 that we're still people first.
Right.
Right. So just keeping that human connection, creating a safe space for your coworkers, employees, your students to feel like they can come and tell you about something, right? So that they're not scared, like, I don't want to tell her anything because she's always so, hard, or she's always so stern, like, but, creating a safe space where they can feel comfortable letting you know that something is wrong. I know I can tell her, she'll work with me. So I think those two are really important, and kind of, have a little bit of a link together.
Yeah, absolutely. So ask and aid in any way you can, because you don't know what someone is going through. And then, of course, being conscientious of the fact that we are going through a pandemic, but there needs to be a priority of personal safety and a safe space to feel that they can be open and honest. And
Yeah.
I have to ask, as you're talking about making people feel comfortable coming to a supervisor or an instructor, what kind of dialogue would you like to hear from a supervisor or hear from an instructor to know that it's okay to tell them these things?
Yeah, so I can give an example. We have at the college, my current supervisor, or my previous supervisor, was having a check-in, right? So every Wednesday it was a check-in for like work, like this is where we're at, work-wise, blah, blah, blah. And then every Friday, since everyone went remote, we're not seeing people as much. There's not that personal human connection anymore. Every Friday we had a check-in, a personal check-in. There's nothing about work. It was literally just completely personal, and it was the whole team. And we would always ask a question, like kind of like we did at the beginning of this meeting, of like, if you won the lottery today, what would you do? Or, what's your perfect day? And I think that helped alleviate a lot of stress. And we always had it on Friday, right? So you're going to go into the weekend like, and then we would always get like that last hour off. Okay, we got off early. We get off at 5, but it's 4. Like, get off, send somebody a nice message, stuff like that, like encouraging things just to let other people know that, like, hi, we're all in this together, right? Stronger together kind of thing. So I think that dialogue of, how are you doing? Is there anything I can help you with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that's super important. And I think a lot of people are so absorbed in what they're doing and how their life is going that sometimes we forget that other people need that connection too. So thank you so much, John, for sharing that. And I appreciate the example you gave. Because you're right, that takes you into the weekend feeling so excited. And in fact, maybe even more excited about coming into the workplace on Monday.
Gives a little bit less brain tightening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Mhm.
Rebecca, Javier, I think Javier was gonna come next.
Sure. So what I wrote down is our chancellor, our current chancellor for our community college, which is a part of a bigger district. He is someone who's actually risen through the ranks of the district. He started out as a temporary employee some 20 years ago and has worked his way up to every major position from deans, VPs, president of one of the colleges up before he became chancellor a few years ago.
Mhm.
And just by that, you can see a very strong contrast with the chancellor who served before him, who retired. And by no means was the previous chancellor not an exceptionally good chancellor, but you can definitely tell the differences of someone who has firsthand knowledge of experiencing it from every level, from a department all the way up to overseeing a college to now overseeing the district. He has a different mindset. And I think that's most evident in the fact that with the current pandemic going on in academia, many institutions are laying off a lot of people, especially staff members. And this chancellor, who started out as a temporary staff member, has actually made the commitment to no layoffs, and all the college presidents agreed. And so we have not had a single layoff. We've had to severely cut back budgets and slash budgets as much as possible, but they have refused to lay anyone off. So that's quite a feat.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to ask you, do you feel that empathy for him means that because he's been in every single one of those levels and experienced every single one of those levels, that he knows how important it is to have those jobs? Is that kind of what I'm getting from you?
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. I'm in a position where I represent staff for the district, and so I meet quite frequently with him. And even before this pandemic, you can definitely tell that his mindset came from the position of understanding and having been through it. So now I definitely think that played a big part in that decision making process, especially considering we live in an area where there's many other four-year institutions, and many of them by summertime were already doing mass layoffs.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that that insight directly leads to that.
That decision. Yeah.
Mhm.
And do you have a second one? I'm sorry.
Going in a similar fashion, our institution, specifically our college, not so much our district, although our district to some extent, is also starting to have many conversations regarding inequalities and social issues going on. So we are a college that has a majority of people of color. We are a Hispanic Serving Institute, and a good amount of our students are Black students. And we're actually, within our district, our college has the most Black student population. So we have had a lot of students, a lot of employees who with everything going on in the country since the summertime, have really felt the need to bring these issues forward and how we communicate as a college. What is our messaging to our students, to our staff and our faculty, and our administration has been very receptive of that. And we have committees that already existed prior have created more programming available to students, employees, and community members. We have student unions that are having these conversations. We have district-wide committees that have been formed to talk about these issues, and then we have had the colleges themselves hold sessions for the employees to just discuss what they're feeling, what's going on, and that's very different than even just a few years ago, to experience that in a workplace so broadly and so frequently. We used to have maybe a conversation every year or so about that, whether it's in training or if one of these groups held a session. But since the summer, we've been having at least one type of programming monthly. So
That's fantastic. The fact that the college is recognizing this and saying we need to have these discussions, there shouldn't be resistance anymore. We need to be implementing this not just annually but monthly, because the students and the staff and the faculty need to know that we're behind them. And that is wonderful. That is empathy at play there. And thank you for sharing it. That was a really great example of how your college is already implementing empathy after having experienced such a social injustice. Rebecca, please feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know, what did you come up with?
Well, kind of one of the things that I think about for where I work, I'm not, you guys are in education. And so in the aspect of my workplace, we're kind of a small office. So the atmosphere is a really big part of kind of our everyday work environment. So having a positive atmosphere, especially for us, again, being so small, because, everyone has different personalities, it's all different. But just going in each day and just kind of feeling, you know, connected with each other, and just kind of having that relationship. And I think that can start with just having the atmosphere being positive and you wanting to connect with people and share, because you work with people for so long, you form a friendship, a relationship in that way. And so that really, I think, can add to it being a positive place. So I think that can lead to people feeling open enough to, talk about personal things, but also work related, feel comfortable going to a coworker or your boss, and, feeling open to discuss something, or even if you have questions. I know communications are really big thing in any kind of environment, but just knowing that you feel comfortable going to somebody work wise, but then you kind of get to the point when you work with somebody for so long that you feel, again, close in a relationship. So you feel like you can talk to them about personal things if you're having anything that you're dealing with, and you know that you can go to that person and they're not going to judge you and they'll be open and honest with you. So I think that, I know it's like personal and work related, and sometimes those do cross. So if you have a positive environment, you feel more open to discuss work and personal things, and just knowing that those people are there and can be supportive if you do have anything. And then when I thought of that, it kind of reminds me as a company as a whole, just kind of knowing kind of where they I guess stands. And I guess in a way, like a lot of companies, like where I work, we have what we call core values. And empathy, I think, is one of our core values. Well, there's a lot of other, terms on there. but just knowing where your company is kind of at, you know, in terms of each person, what your expectations are, of each person that works there, again, your values and really how you're treated, and you know if you're treated well, of course, you know, just that I think it plays really with the environment of how everyone treats each other in the workplace, and knowing that your company has those values and treats you well and appreciates you. Um, I think, you know, really helps you in the workplace. And I just kind of feel like it makes it more of a community and a more of an enjoyable place to work, to where you feel your best and you feel comfortable and you can be 100%, and knowing that there's no judgment. There's a thing where there's like no stupid questions. You know, you feel comfortable going to your boss and knowing that they can relate to you. But that's how I feel about in the workplace. And, you know, if it's more of a professional setting, I don't know if it relates the same in that way, but that's just kind of things that I thought of with empathy.
Well, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I need to make clear is that there are no wrong answers, because the way you view empathy may be very different from other people, and the way you experience it may be different. But we do have that connection that needs to be had. And I think you've made a good point. And in fact, you talk about the company standing and understanding their values and their expectations and how they're supposed to treat their employees. And this goes back to just the morale. We talked about morale with Dawn when she talked about how they have those Friday meetings. And Javier mentioned that the chancellor had risen through the ranks, so he understands the expectations and perspective of different levels. And I think that's you hit it nail on the head, right? It's these companies, and wherever you work, regardless if it's an education or in a professional setting, knowing that we have a positive atmosphere where open communication is accepted, we feel like we can do our work, and just like you said, feel like we can do our absolute best and be 100% when we're there. Because I know we may have experienced not being at a job and not feeling like we're being treated with fairness and kindness, and that ability to be open and honest with whoever may need to hear it, whether a supervisor or coworkers. So I think you guys are right in the head. And in fact, I want to commend you, Rebecca, because you mentioned that you want to be able to openly communicate with people without judgment. And that just goes back to this cognitive empathy, right? Knowing fully well that people are going to recognize and understand what you might be thinking and feeling without judging what you're saying to them and how you're talking to them and what you're feeling. So these are all wonderful points. Please let me know if you would like to add anything else to I'm going to call it our parking lot, our little post-it notes over here, because I think what you guys have said has been wonderful. And what I'd like to do is take you down, not take you down, I apologize. Tell you guys some of the things that I came up with as I was thinking about this, and let you guys know that there's a lot of what you said that actually correlates with what I did. So the check-ins with your teacher, your supervisor, your coaches. I know for some of you guys, having those check-ins is the moment where you feel like you can finally be open and honest and say, hey, you know what? I'm going through a lot right now. I just need you to take some of this off my plate, please. And knowing that communication is a two-way street, knowing fully well that you can be open and honest with that positive atmosphere. Knowing the principles of the company is really important, because we can decide if the values and the expectations of the company are going to impart empathy when we are going through difficult times like now with COVID-19. Understanding that safety comes first. Absolutely. Employees and students want to know if they're being taken care of, and that their physical, mental, and emotional well-being is coming first. Fostering an environment of honesty and openness. Rebecca mentioned this, and yes, absolutely. Creating a positive atmosphere for the team, because you want them to feel like they are part of a team, that they're not one individual person. Rounding and creating those relationships. Dawn mentioned how those Friday meetings, again, I'm going back to those Friday meetings because those sound really fun. Creating those relationships to make people feel like they belong. Connecting in the time of COVID. Javier mentioned that he continuously meets with the chancellor, and knowing what's going on brings down that stress and that anxiety of what's happening in times of uncertainty, but also just the stress of not having that communication with people. And all of you guys mentioned this, that communication and connection was so important. The last two things are transparency and approachability, knowing fully well that when someone's speaking to you, they're speaking with the transparency that you know that everything they're saying is with genuineness and honesty, and that you know you can come to them when you need assistance. So you guys did a really wonderful job doing this, and these are just a couple of the things that I thought of when I was thinking about how can I incorporate empathy in my classroom, and if I wanted my supervisor to implement empathy in my workplace, in my everyday life, this is what I would love, and this is what I hope that he will get to a point where we can do this very frequently. But I'd also like to take you down the idea of, and I'm very, very fortunate, all of you guys are familiar with the theater world and understand that theater involves being around people consistently and constantly, and human connection is what makes the theater work, right? So one of the first things that in the theater is building the team. And not all the time do we have the dream team, so to speak, but we have a team that's willing to put themselves out there and do the work. And the next thing I said was establishing that the motivation to complete the work being done is actually based on the passion to get it done, not a deadline. And yeah, most cases it is deadline, right? But knowing fully well that the work is something that you know is going to produce beautiful art, and it's the passion that gets the work done. If anybody's done theater, which we all have, we all understand there are ups and downs. There is that week of tech rehearsal where everything looks like it's just going to go absolutely horribly, and then it comes together. And we go through those emotional ups and downs and those physical ups and downs, that roller coaster, where we realize that the people that we've experienced this with have made us a closer team, right? I love theater because of how we are constantly reminded of the end product, whether it be with designing or with directing or acting. We know where we need to go. It's just a matter of how we're going to get there. The last thing that I really enjoy about theater is that we get to know people in a three-dimensional way, not just the fact that we can see them three-dimensionally, right? But also gets a really wonderful opportunity to get to know a person, where they're from, why they're doing theater. That's one of the first questions we ask when we see a theater person. Oh, why did you get started? How did you do this? And there's usually this really fantastical story, should I say, about how people started to get into theater. And so this is one of the things I love about it. It's because you get to spend 6 to 8 weeks working with a group of people and getting to know every part of them, if they allow it, right? What I'd like to do is talk about how we teach empathy using these traditional practices. And one of the things is role play, right? So if we're in the workplace, we could switch jobs for a day, just so someone gets an idea of what it's like to do the job that you're doing, and gets an idea of like, oh, okay, yeah, this is actually a lot harder, or this takes a lot more time than I originally thought. Actively listening, just taking the time to just listen to what a person has to say. There is nothing like just listening and finally hearing a person. One of the things that I love about theater is that we actually have to listen, right? Not to listen to respond, but we have to really actively listen. And this is one of the things that we can implement in the workplace and in the classroom. Learning from others and using osmosis, these kind of go hand in hand, because as human beings, we do this thing called observational learning, where all we do is watch people and decide if we're going to do the same thing based on what happens to them. So if something really positive happens, hey, maybe I'm going to try that because that looks like it was a positive experience for them. We mimic. That's just in human nature. And so we get an opportunity to mimic each other and learn from each other using these traditional practices that theater has already implemented. So I've got a couple of activities that can promote empathy, whether it be in the classroom or whether it's in the workplace. But the one that I really think is going to serve all of us, is this idea of customer service. And essentially, we all get together. I'm the manager, or maybe Heaven is the manager. He says, okay, I'm going to give you guys a very specific scenario, and we have to brainstorm how we're going to keep this customer at our company by using empathy. So that could be understanding why this customer is upset at the company. Apologize. Why the customer is upset with the company, and how you guys can try and put yourself in their shoes to figure out what you can do to keep this customer coming back for your businesses. There's a couple of other activities that I'm definitely going to share with you guys at the end of our presentation, but that is the one that I felt like I can definitely gear that towards you, and you would definitely feel like that makes sense and it's useful, right? So we're going to do one more activity, and this is called Count to 20. And this activity is a team building activity. It can be done anywhere, whether it's at the office. You don't even have to be next to each other. You don't have to see each other. You can be in Zoom. The idea is that as a group, we're going to count to 20. One person is going to say one number, one at a time. We cannot have anybody saying or speaking at the same time, because then we have to start over. Anybody can start the count. Excuse me. Anybody can start the count, but the goal is to get to 20. With 4 of us, it might not be too difficult, but it is kind of difficult when we all turn off our cameras. So we're all going to turn our cameras off. Please unmute yourselves, but we are going to take a chance and see how we can do with counting to 20. Anybody can start.
1,
2.
2.
Ah. We already have to start over. Okay, let's start over.
1,
2.
3.
4.
5,
No. Okay. Let's try again.
1,
2.
3.
4.
5.
No. 5 cannot be our demise. Okay.
Okay.
1.
2,
3.
4.
5.
5. No. Okay, we're gonna get this.
Okay, we got to 5.
We got to 5.
1,
2.
3.
4.
5.
6,
7.
8.
9.
10,
11.
12.
13.
14.
15.
Did we say it at the same time?
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry, I should have said it really fast.
All right, we'll do it one more time. And I think this is going to be our lucky chance because we got to 14. That's pretty big.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
1,
2.
3.
4.
5.
6,
7.
8.
9.
10,
11.
12.
13.
14,
15.
16.
17.
18.
19.
20.
Yes.
We did it.
You guys did it. Oh, wow. That's actually the first time that
Fun.
happened. Congratulations. Okay. That was really, really good. So actually, I would like to take a second. What was the hardest part of that for you guys?
I think what threw me off was like the first couple of times we had a oops, let me start my video. We had sort of like a rhythm or like a pattern.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, I know it's gonna be Brianda and then Rebecca and then me and then Javier, but it just kept changing. So you couldn't like depend on on a certain
Pattern.
order.
Yeah.
I thought about that. I was like, oh, what if we all just did it, whatever at the same each person? But then I was so nervous that I was just nervous that then no one was gonna say it or that I was gonna mess it up. So then I would just say a number real quick, hoping that nobody else would say it.
Yeah, expectations were really high for you, Rebecca. You
I
had
know. I was like, God.
stakes were very high for you. Yes. So one of the reasons I like this activity is because it makes us focus. I think being in a room, we sense each other's energy, but even on Zoom, I felt like there was energy already being passed between one another. And I think it brings that community because empathy is all about the human connection. It's about knowing that you belong because I just realized my video is off.
Video.
Um, it's all about that human connection because as human beings, all we want is to belong. And when we find a place where we do belong and we have that human connection, we know that empathy is just going to fall in place for us. So the final thing that we're going to do is I'm going to ask you guys to think about some things that you're going to do to show empathy in your workplace and in the classroom. And as we leave here, I would like you to share at least one thing that you're going to do with a person in the group or with someone on your way out that you're going to do when you go to work tomorrow or when you go to the classroom that is going to reflect empathy. And with that, I thank you guys so much for being here tonight with me. And I hope that you will choose empathy and kindness and show that in the workplace and in the classroom. Thank you so much, guys. I cannot tell you how appreciative I am of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.